Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got to do some catching up on Key to Redemption. In our hands, episode 6. This is class number 3. It's last week's parsha. We want to complete. I'm not going to finish today because the end is very important, and I want to do a short class tomorrow to complete it. And so this will be class number 3 on episode 6, and there'll be one more, class number 4. Stay tuned tomorrow. Then after that, we will start, hopefully already tomorrow, the next episode, episode 7, which is really, really awesome, like all these are. All right. Now, before we begin, I want to dedicate this class. My mother is dedicating this class too. It's an interesting combination because we're talking about drawing down the Aleph, the ultimate redemptive light, the light of Mashiach, into the darkness, and as a result of that, transforming the darkness. So my mother tells me today that my mother's side of the family came from Hungary. And those who know, 1944, 1944 it was this time of the year. I think, I don't know exactly which month it started, but April, May, June, this was the time of the year in which the Germans liquidated, may their names of the Nazis went and liquidated, may the names be blotted out, went and liquidated all the towns and cities in Hungary, all the Jews in these towns, and sent them off to Auschwitz, to the death camps. So my grandfather, his mother, and his siblings were all sent. And this is the day today, and exactly when they were killed, I don't know. We have the date, but this was the date that they were all sent to Auschwitz. My grandfather survived, but his mom, his father, and his all of his siblings were all killed, murdered. And this is the day that they would say Kaddish for all of them. And the week before that, my grandmother, that's my grandfather's wife, they weren't married at that time, this is before they were married. Her family was sent away and taken to Auschwitz. That was last week, and that's commemorated on the 12th day of Sivan. So I'm going to mention all these names that we should remember them, and these souls don't need any elevation because they've been elevated right then and there to the highest place. But still, we'll send them love from down here below. I'm sure that's adding, and they don't need elevation, but it's always possible higher and higher and higher because God is infinite. So here we go. The ones that are commemorated today is, let's begin with my grandfather's mother. That's my great grandmother. Breindel Yutta, Bas Reb Yehuda. May her neshama have a great aliyah. And her children, great aunts and great uncles. Dov Ben I have to get the father's name. Dov Ben, hold on. Dov Ben Rabbi Yikosil Pinchas, Yehudis Bas Yikosil Pinchas, Frede Devaira Bas Yikosil Pinchas, Tzemach Gittel. It doesn't make sense. Tzemach Gittel, that does not make sense because Tzemach is a boy's name and Gittel is a girl's name. So I'm not sure if it's 3. Maybe it might be 2. Maybe it might be 2 different members of the family. One Tzemach and one Gittel, and the third one is Hadas. So this is so all of these are Bas and Ben Yekusil Pinchas. And then on which was last week, on my mother's side, her father, Menachem Mendel ben Pinchas, and the Rachel Bas Yosef Shmuel, and Fredel Bas Yosef Shmuel, and Chaya Bas Yosef Shmuel, and Leibish ben Yosef Shmuel, and Menachem Mendel ben Yosef. No, Menachem Mendel was the father. Okay. All right. The paper jotted down with all the names, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure we got all the names in there. And they all have a great, great aliyah. All right. Now let's draw down the light. Any case, so in last week's class, we've left off. This is amazing, amazing learning. We've left off that as a result of Hashem revealing to us the deepest Torah, the Torah of the future, when the Torah will reveal its inner secrets, its inner light. There is the giving of the Torah, and the whole discussion was what was the newness of the Shabbos after the giving of the Torah, this last week Shabbos, in which we learned that the newness related to it is that there is the Torah, and then there is the extraction to open up the Torah, to unload, to open up, or to download the files that are in the Torah, and to open them up and to bring them into our reality. So there is the revelations that we got at Sinai. God gave us the entire Torah, but then we started opening it up and revealing its content. And for 3.5 millennium, we are working on extracting all its jewels and gems, all the hidden divine wisdom that's within it. But we are limited on how much we can pump out of it to the limitations of a human mind. And then when Mashiach will come, God will extract what he can extract from the Torah. And then it will pour with all of its infinity, its boundlessness. And that's going to create a whole new level of Torah. So we learned last week, as a result of that newness coming out of the Torah, since the Torah is the blueprint of the world, we're going to experience a new creation. A new world doesn't mean a new world. It will be the same world, but as the Torah calls it, Hashemayim va'aretz hachadasha, asher ani oiseh, heaven and earth that I am making. And the idea of I am making we discussed is that the godly revelation that's going to be in the world is not only going to be the godliness of each particular creature in its own form, limit, and definition, but also the core essence of God that is related to the physical. That was, as we discussed last week, not so pronounced by the giving of the Torah. That is going to be revealed at the time of Mashiach, a direct derivative of the essence of the Torah that was revealed. Again, when something is revealed in the Torah, it then later translates into revelation within creation. So this concept and this idea, which we discussed at great length in class number 1 of episode 6 and class number 2 of episode 6, we left off in last class how the Rebbe revealed to us how all of this is to be seen in the Parsha of the week. Parshas Naso highlights this idea. Naso, yes, raising the head of the Jewish people, is referring to lifting the head, means taking the Torah, which is a head, which is the intelligence of Torah, and pumping it up to the highest level, super intelligence, increasing the intelligence of the Torah, taking the quantum leap from human revelation, human creativity in the Torah to divine revelation, and even deeper than that, lifting the head to the power of tainug, of pleasure, to open up the Torah to the quintessential pleasure of Torah as it is rooted in the quintessential essence of God. That's how deep. That's the idea of lifting the head. And that's the name of the Parsha right after the giving of the Torah. And we learned that even though it's referring only to the counting of the tribe of the Levites, the head, but really he says when Mashiach will come, this is something we learned last week, amazing. As Rambam says, that every Jew has a choice to commit himself to God and to withdraw from all other worldly pursuits and devote himself only to the study of Torah. So when Mashiach will come, everybody will be in that state. And today's days, we know already, computers will be doing, everything will be automated. So we won't have to do anything. We will have free minds to be able to study Torah. So we're all going to be in the level of tribe of Levi, So lifting the heads of the Levites is really lifting the heads of everyone and preparing us for that amazing state of Torah study. But then the next thing we also learned that we discovered in the parasha, that as a result of the Torah getting its lift, the world will also get its lift. Where do we find that in the parasha? We discussed, and in the rest of Parshas Naso, it talks about the Levites carrying the Mishkan, erecting the Mishkan, carrying the Mishkan, which is the idea of spreading, bringing divine revelation into the entire creation, into the entire world, even in the farthest corners of the world, until the farthest place in the world is going to have the same sanctity as Jerusalem and as the temple, where you can pronounce God's name without having to camouflage it, as we do today. In other words, it used to be, the way it's halachically is that what? That only in the temple can you pronounce God's name as it is. But that's only in the past temples. The future temple, since the revelation of God is going to be everywhere, God is going to be able to be pronounced everywhere. And that's because we carried the Mishkan, which the tabernacle, through the desert, which has a bigger meaning than just wandering in the desert a few thousand years ago, represents the entire work that we've been doing for thousands of years during the exile, spreading across the world and bringing divine and refining the world and doing mitzvahs in the world, uncovering God in all of creation, which is all a derivative of uncovering the Torah by extracting the deepest extractions of the Torah. We're also extracting the wisdom of the world itself, both in the sciences that we get to see and in the root of these sciences is the revelation of God that's being revealed within creation. And right now, as we see, we're at the cusp of such incredible advancements in terms of technology and where the world is going to be going, where you can sense that the world is breaking out into this godly state. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to talk about this in other classes this week. Okay, so now after we've discussed how both the upgrade of the Torah, the future upgrade of the Torah, and the future upgrade of the world are both hinted to in Parshas Naso. So now we will come and we're holding, where are we holding? Right over here. So we're holding at chapter 10. And the Rebbe says, watch this, that in Parshas Naso, there's one more very important thing that is also highlighted. What is that? Even though the main crux of this talk is to emphasize the uncovering of the essence of the Torah, because this is all Shavuos talk. During Shavuos, we're experiencing Mashiach from the prism of Shavuos. As I told you, this is the idea. The Rebbe is giving us already the messianic approach for the days of Mashiach, but he is showing it to us as we experience throughout the entire year. So on Shavuos, he's talking about what's new in Mashiach's days regarding Shavuos. What's going to be new? It's going to be new Torah. Shavuos is the time we celebrate the Torah. It's going to be new Torah. So even though the emphasis is on the new Torah, the Rebbe, however, taking it back even deeper. So what's causing this revelation of Torah? What's causing the Torah to spill its essence? Mashiach is doing that. Who is Mashiach? Mashiach is the essence of the Jewish people. He's the core essential soul. And what makes everything tick are the souls. So let's put it this way. In order to get an understanding of where the Rebbe is going over here, it's wild. He's basically saying there are three levels that we need to now uncover its deepest truths. The most external level, and therefore the final level of it is in creation itself. Within the creation, we have to uncover the divine within creation, and the essence of the divine that is buried in the essence of the material world, of the physical world. And that's the new world that's going to be when Mashiach comes. The new heaven and the earth. How do we unplug the world and extract its essential quality? We have to do that in the blueprint. So we have to do that in the Torah. So the Torah precedes creation. So by uncovering deeper depth in the Torah, we uncover a deeper depth in the world. However, now we have to ask the question, how do we unplug the essence of the Torah? How is it that we move from the more external part of the Torah to its essence? So we have to go even deeper than the Torah. What precedes the Torah? The Jewish souls precede the Torah. As the sages say, what comes first? Torah or Israel? Which one is first? The sages say that in God's essence, the Jewish soul, the soul of Israel, is rooted even deeper than the Torah. But in the soul itself, there is the external soul, and there is the essence of the soul. Throughout all of history, we're functioning more, the souls, their self-awareness or their experiences are only on the levels of their personality traits and their powers, but not of their essence. The essence of the soul of the Jewish people will only come forth when Mashiach is here. Mashiach is the time when the essence is revealed, the essence of the soul. That's why Mashiach himself is considered the essence of all Jewish souls. And he will unplug the essence in everyone. And it works vice versa as well. When we were given the task to reveal Mashiach in the world, who is the most essential soul, in the words of the Rebbe in the discourse, he's the Yechida. The sages say there are 5 levels of soul. There's Nefesh, more external part of the soul, the one that animates more or less the body, the physical functions of a person. There is Ruach, the spirit, which is the more the emotional sector of the soul. There is Neshama, which is the intellectual sector of the soul. There is Chaya, which is the superpower of the soul, the power of will, the power of drive and will, which is higher than intelligence, essential desires and wants, and that's the Chaya. And then deeper than even that is the very soul itself, the Yechida of the Neshama. The soul at its deepest core, even deeper than its will, because will is still an expression to the outside. I want something, but here it just is, and this is the level where the soul is just one with God Himself, just oneness, absolute oneness. Mashiach. So these are 5 levels of soul. Each and every one of us has these 5 levels. We can tune in, depending on our service, into these various different levels. But throughout history, different elements of our souls were spotlighted. So there's a general energy flow that flows throughout the generation. In other words, everybody's doing their own thing, but we all kind of are impacted by a certain flow of energy, a certain frequency that's happening during that time. So and in each frequency, there is a chief circuit where all other circuits are plugged into. That chief circuit is the leader of the Jewish people during that time, but that has to be when that service is required. So King David was considered the primary circuit for the nefesh, which is the most immediate power of the soul in the body. The most immediate, which means the most down-to-earth energy. The ruach, the more emotional energy. So that was a deeper level of soul. That's Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. He is considered that super soul. And then there is the power of neshama, which is the intellect. Moshe is the super soul. That is the inner plug-in where all the souls plug in to his soul for this type of service of intelligence. And then we go deeper. That's where Moshe brought us the Torah, which is a higher intelligence, godly intelligence. Finally, Adam Arishon, first human being, he is the level of pure will. Right? Very high, he's higher than Moshe. We're talking about Adam before he sinned. But even deeper than Adam is Mashiach's soul. He's touching on essence, an essence of essence. So once we have this understanding, so we understand that the mover and the shaker of all of this revelation of essence throughout all of existence, it has to start from the deepest point. So it has to start from the stirring of the quintessential soul of Israel, which as a result of that wakes up the essence in all souls, the essence of soul in all souls, that level of essence in all souls, the yechid of every soul, which triggers and generates the Torah to also be opened up to the essence of the Torah, because the Torah also has these 4 levels, and then a 5th level, which is the level of essence. That's why we know the Torah can be expounded on 4 levels: simple meaning, remez, which are numeric, are called the hints and clues of the Torah, and then there is drush, midrashic study, and then there is secret Kabbalah. But these are 4 levels, and there's the 5th level of Torah, which is Mashiach's Torah, the Torah of the future. As we discussed earlier, God squeezing the lemon. It's what has not yet been revealed to the world, the Torah Chadasha, the new Torah that we're talking about of the future. That's the yechid of the Torah. But that cannot be triggered unless there is a soul that triggers it, because the souls are at the very, very core, even deeper than the Torah. And finally, once we trigger that, that triggers also into the world as well, that we move to this level of revelation. I have no question. It's, to me, without a question, a shadow of a doubt, that all the scientific explosion of knowledge and where we're moving now in the world in terms of all the technology and all of that is all triggered and all brought about, obviously, through all the thousands of years of mitzvahs and all the good that we've done in the world, downloading all this holiness. But then it really, really is triggered when the Rebbe in 1990 and 1991 gave these talks. And he basically, when the Rebbe did this, he unlocked the new Torah. And even though it hasn't yet fully manifested, it's us to drive it, to go deeper within ourselves and our own minds and find deeper wisdom and understanding. But the Rebbe already unlocked, since he's the quintessential soul, he unlocked the quintessential wisdom of Torah, which in turn unlocks the quintessential flood of knowledge in creation regarding the material world, regarding all the sciences of creation. And that's why in 1990, as we discussed, was the world basically took a major leap forward, because we had the introduction of the internet and the ability of passing of knowledge that happened as a result of that, and the acceleration of where that moved to. And now it's moving into AI, artificial intelligence, and all of this. This is all driven and all part of and all the derivative of the new Torah that the Rebbe is talking about over here. But it needs the trigger of the Yechida soul. And who's responsible? Now here's the thing. We can either say Mashiach is the one who triggers it, fires up the essence, which he does. But on the other hand, what are we? We're just recipients and waiting for our Yechida to be fired up. By each and every one of us digging in, and today it's accessible as turning ourselves on, switching on the switch of our core essence. That means when we, in our Judaism, not just in Judaism, in our lives, we're the core of our being, and we devote ourselves in especially whenever we're doing positive, we should be doing positive all the time, but when we're doing a mitzvah, we're studying Torah, we're doing good in the world, we should do it not because our minds are telling. We shouldn't be invested in it just from our intelligence or just a little emotionally, or be invested in it just on a behavioral level because we've gotten accustomed to doing certain rituals and we just do them mindlessly. It's not enough to do something to do it, the actual behavior. It's not enough even to invest our emotions. It's not even enough to invest deep thought, deep intelligence. It's not enough even to awaken a drive that's bigger than our minds, an essential drive, an excitement that's like a super excitement. Even that's not enough. We have to do whatever we are doing in Judaism and in goodness in this world. We have to do it with our entire being, from our essence. That means willing to even give our entire existence for it. Getting every ounce of strength, every aspect of our being fully present, fully there. And also, as we're going to see, in a way, when we're tapping our essence, then we feel absolutely connected with every Jew in the entire world. We're connecting in a very deep way, and ultimately with all of humanity and all of creation. We feel the oneness, because on the level of essence, there is this incredible oneness. So then it's not just about me doing something, it's about us doing something. And then I sense and I feel the importance of you doing the mitzvah as important as me doing it, because I'm not into it because I want to score points for myself. I'm into it because I recognize at the deepest core that this is the absolute truth of existence. And if it's my truth, it's your truth. It's the truth of all of existence, the truth of everything. And I know with absolute certainty, whether you're conscious of it or you're not conscious of it, that this is your truth, because this is the truth of all of reality. The very being of all beings, which is God Almighty Himself, who asked and revealed to us His business in this world, His ways, His expression, through He expresses Himself in the world through mitzvahs. And being that you have a soul just like me, and your soul is plugged into the essence just like me, and therefore, sometimes, however, for people, for the lack of knowledge or the lack of education, are not we're not given the education or the teaching or the instruction of how to do a mitzvah or why a mitzvah is important, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it becomes my obligation that when I'm doing a mitzvah, that I'm not only thinking about myself, I'm thinking about whoever I can get my hands on, whoever I can get connected to get them also into the observance of the mitzvahs and to study Torah. So this is all an indication that it's coming from my essence. It's not from my essence, it's from where I already become differentiated and specified as an individual human being living with my own personal, programs or agendas and so on and so forth. Then that's not it. So the Rebbe is going to say over here, the way we can accelerate this procedure happening when, as an individual person, we fire up our essence, which, in the words of the Rebbe, is a spark of Mashiach, because each and every one of us has a spark of Mashiach, which is the truest self that we have. But being that we are not the big Mashiach, we are one individual person, but nevertheless we have the spark inside of us. When we spark ours, we help spark the cosmic Mashiach, the bigger force of Mashiach, the super soul, who we call Mashiach Tzidkenu, the righteous Redeemer, who is going to be a human being, but that human being with the super soul of all souls, we assist in his revelation. So it's a back and forth. It transmits two ways. He empowers us to access our Mashiach, and the more each and every one of us focuses to spark our own spark, that influences the source to become more powerful. When we say more powerful, we mean more revealed, more expressed. The more that is expressed in the world, the more it triggers the essence of the Torah to be revealed. The more the essence of the Torah is revealed, the more it trickles down into the universe as well, into the actual external creation and our existence, until the entire world is filled with God's open presence and light. So that's where we're going with this. So the Rebbe says that in this week's Parsha, Parshas Naso, not only does it emphasize, again, when I say this week, I meant the Parsha we learned last week, because now it's already after, but we're still referring to that Parsha. In Parshas Naso, not only in the content of the Parsha can we find the new Torah and the new world that the Torah will produce, the Mashiach Torah and the Mashiach world, but we can also find the Mashiach soul, which means the trigger who is triggering it all. And this is based on the idea, the Rebbe says, that every single one of us has a little Mashiach inside of us. And where do we find that? So first, let's see what the source for that is. The source for that is because the sages tell us, there is a verse in Parshas Balak, one of the upcoming Torah portions in a few weeks, where it speaks about the prophecies regarding the end time prophecies stated by Balak, Bilam, the evil prophet, but when he wanted to curse, but blessings came out of his mouth. And what did he say? He said, a star will shoot forth from Jacob, and a ruling stick, a staff, will stand up. He's referring to Mashiach. He calls him a star. Now the sages, so we know it's simply referring to the ultimate leader of the world. However, the Jerusalem Talmud translates that verse to refer to a star will shine forth from Jacob, is referring to every single person, every Jew. So the question is, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the ultimate star, which is Mashiach? Or are we talking everybody? How can you reconcile? How can one verse mean every single person? You know, the butcher, the baker, the shoemaker, the tailor, everybody. And at the same time referring to Mashiach. The answer is both are true. Because everybody has a spark of Mashiach inside it. And that's your star, your shining star, your deepest point of light. Now, in the footnote, the Rebbe adds another very important point. That by calling this spark of Mashiach inside of us a star, it indicates not only its own quality, but its impact on the world. Not only we have an abstract power of Mashiach to illuminate our own soul and our own space, to give us a high, to give us this incredible godly fix. That's beautiful. But that it can actually influence the cosmos and transform the entire world. Why? The Rebbe says, meaning what the Rebbe is really saying is that all of existence is plugged into that little spark of Mashiach that every single one of us has. Because in the word, which in Hebrew for the word kochav, you have this, you can spell two words, chavav, chav beis. Chavav, which is, chavav is 26, the numeric value, chav beis is 22. So the Rebbe says, what is this referring to? 26 we know is the numeric value of God's name. Particularly, we refer to it as the tetragrammaton, which is referred to as, we call him Shem Havaya, which Havaya means the one who is being all beingness. Mahava, the one that is bringing about existence. So we're not talking about God as God is sitting for himself, but God as God is a power. He's powering everything. Now, what method did God use to power the universe? God used a code of 22 letters. That's the Aleph base. Through the building blocks, through the 22 letters of the Torah, those are the building blocks in which God is building the universe. 26, 22 is referring to therefore the Rebbe says, the word star is not just referring to the souls as the souls stand above the world for themselves, so forth, but it's referring to the soul as it has influence on the 26, 22, which means on creation as a whole. And therefore, through sparking our spark of Mashiach inside of us, we're actually metamorphosizing all of existence. So now let's take a look in this week's parsha, Parshas Naso, and discover where in Parshas Naso do we find the emphasis on being a Jew, but not being a Jew from your external parts of your soul, but being an essence Jew, a Mashiach Jew. Opening yourself up to your Judaism from the star that's inside of you, from your deepest inner core. Where do we find that? Again, the Rebbe with his amazing eyes finds it right at the beginning of the parsha. What is at the beginning of the Torah? It says right in the beginning of Parshas Naso, it says you should count the Levites, you should count them. Counting is an interesting phenomenon. You're doing a census, you're counting people. When you're counting people, you're not asking, all they needed to do was provide their ancestry. They had just to prove their Jewish origin. That's all. They came by them. In this case, it wasn't counting Jews in general, it was counting the tribe of the Levites, but that's it. And then each person is counted as one. Everybody goes through the counting booth, and every person is counted as one. 1, 2, 3. Now, one person who's walking by is the greatest righteous tzaddik. He davens for 18 hours a day. He's covered in his talus and his tefillin. He's in a state of constant meditation. The guy, everybody knows he's a miracle worker. He's totally transcends nature. He's a Baal Shem Tov, a tzaddik like this. The guy standing right behind him in the line is the most simplest of person. He sits and he replaces the towels in the mikvah. He's a simple guy, wonderful person, but very simple. Not necessarily not the biggest genius, but simple guy. Then you have someone else who's actually not just simple, but is a Jew who's with problems, difficulties, hardships, challenges, and a sinner. Everybody. So now, and guess when they're counting him, you don't say, "Oh, this person, he's the holiest of him. Let's count him as 100. The other guy's value is 36. This guy, we're going to give him a 1." It doesn't work that way. When you're counting, and the counting, every single is assigned, a person signed only one number. And the reason is because everybody's equal. How's everybody equal? If you look in terms of the quality of the people, how can you? Because what we are counting, when we are counting them, we're not counting their qualities. We're counting the fact. We're counting their essence. And in the essence, the spark of the essence isn't different. It's one spark that's the same by everybody, because we're talking about the essence of the essence of God. And in the essence of God, there is no different pieces. It's all a simple oneness that is indivisible. Yet it comes down in everybody in a spark, in their own individual spark, but the individual spark for each one is identical. That means all the differences we might see between one person and the other person is in the manner in which how this soul, which contains this essence of God, later manifests in terms of its development and its expression. But that's all detail. But the essence of it, everybody's the same value. So the fact the Rebbe says that Parshas Naso, the first message we get is counting. And let's take it even further. Why is God counting the people? God knows already. Before we even begin, he knows how many there are. So Rashi says, not in this week's Parsha, Rashi says it in last week's, in Parshas Bamidbar. We're talking about initially the census of the Jewish people. Rashi says because God loves Israel so much, he counts them all the time. What kind of love are we talking about over here? He wants to show his love for them. It's love from essence to essence. It's the essential love that never changes. There's no temperature switch. Sometimes he loves more, sometimes less. It's the core connection that there is from the essence of God to the essence of Israel, which is unchangeable and non-negotiable. That's that love. So both in the counting itself, how it's affecting everybody equally, and the motivation to count. Why is he counting? Because of the love. Both of them express the essence, which that essence is, as we spoke earlier, that's the Mashiach of your soul, which is always there. But throughout the entire exile and throughout entire Jewish history, it's laying dormant. And now is the time, in our generation, right now is the time to tap that essence and to reveal that essence and to function and be conscious and cognizant of that essence. That's the way it is in the beginning of the Torah. And the Rebbe says, well, the same exact theme of essence is in the end of the parsha. Where do we find that? In the end of the Torah portion, we have all the 12 princes of each tribe bringing the special inaugural sacrifices for the Beis Hamikdash. And they're all coming and they're bringing each one their unique sacrifice. This one. Now, they were all exactly the same, but yet everybody was motivated by different thoughts. It's amazing. Each tribe had different reasons why they put together such an elaborate gift. Imagine you send 12 people home, and everybody is given an ability to walk into a flower shop and pick whichever flowers they want and make a bouquet of flowers for their wife. So you'll obviously expect 12 different types of bouquets to come back. Everybody will pick different based on their type. Imagine if all 12 come back exactly picking the same amount of roses and tulips and this type of flower and lilies, and everybody picked the exact same. You say, wow. And you'll expect, why did you pick exactly this? And imagine if everybody's given a chance to explain their presentation, and it's exactly placed exactly the same, yet everybody has a complete different explanation of what they had in mind in why they made it like that. It's really wild. That's what happened by the inaugural sacrifices. The Midrash gives us different, but yeah. Well, so first of all, what do you see over here? On the one hand, we're highlighting each tribe individually. It's not sometimes we brought a communal offering that represented everybody equal. No, you're highlighting individual tribes, this one, and that one. Yet, there is a certain unity that's running through all of them. And the unity is that they all brought the exact same gift. For a different reason, but the same gift. So that you see that, how can that happen? Because we're cut out, we're made up of the same substance. So eventually that oneness has to come out. That's the idea. And then the Rebbe adds more. The sages say, they derive from a verse, that even though God said each tribe, every day another one should do it, another tribe should offer their offering, their gift. But it says, but God considers it as if all of them offered the first day and of all of them offered the last day. That means even when I am going about doing my own thing based on the character of my soul, of me being me as an individual, I am being me as an individual representing everybody. Because when I'm serving God from my essence, my individuality is really an expression of the essence of everybody, as it's being expressed through this particular prism. And in you, we're all expressing the same being, but each one is that same being through the prism as it's expressed. The outside of it is coming through this individual and that individual, but it's all the same essence because we're all one. So here we have both in the beginning of the Torah portion and in the end of the Torah portion, the star element of the soul, which is the essence, which is the Mashiach element of the soul. And that is when we tap this essence, we cause the essence to be revealed in Torah and in the world. Now, the Shabbos that the Rebbe is talking about, where the new Torah is highlighted, is the Shabbos after Shavuos, which was this past Shabbos, Parshas Naso. But everybody knows that on Shabbos, we read one Torah portion, but by Mincha of Shabbos, we already start reading the next Torah portion. So the Rebbe says the same exact theme is highlighted also in the beginning of the Torah portion that was being read the following week, which is Parshas Bahaloscha, which now happens to be this week. And when Parshas Bahaloscha, what's the opening verse of Parshas Bahaloscha? It's talking about when Aaron, the high priest, is kindling the lights, the lamps of the menorah. Aaron, the high priest, is kindling the lamps of the menorah. And over there, the Rebbe says, we see again the unity. The lamps represent the souls. Every soul is a lamp, because a soul is here to illuminate in the darkness of the world, to illuminate, to shine godly light in the world. The reason there are 7 different lamps is because sometimes the Jewish people are divided into 7 different modes of service. At times we're divided into 12 tribes, and at times we're divided into 7. Corresponding to the 7 emotional attributes. Each type of Jew has its own service. Like we see, ancestrally, we have different groups. There are Moroccan Jews, and they have a different style in their type of service. And then there are Hungarian Jews, there are Polish Jews, and then there are American Jews. There are different styles of character, different types. Ashkenazic Jews, Sephardim Jews, Hasidic Jews, Lithuanian Jews, everybody with their own, and each one, has a different style in their service, in how we serve. And we're doing mitzvahs, talking about all people who want to do mitzvot, but highlighting different features relating to the characteristics of their soul. Together we create one menorah. Where do you see the oneness? You see the separation. The verse says that all the lamps should shine towards the middle. The fact that they're separate, but yet they're shining to the middle, you see the oneness is bursting out of it. Another thing, the Torah emphasizes that the menorah was not allowed to be made out of pieces of gold. It had to be one chunk of gold hammered out. The fact that it's one menorah hammered out into 7 different, so even the differences, even the different branches, which represent complete different types of service, is hammered from the same chunk of gold, is again highlighting the unity, the essential unity. which is the Mashiach state of existence, where we will all realize that we're all made out of one piece of gold. Although, and that does not cancel our differences. We can all be together and yet be different. And we're supposed to be different. That's what complements each other. That's where the world is struggling with. People are trying to unite with each other and try to identify and try to be inclusive and become, but because of that, they want to remove all differences. They want to destroy differences between man and woman. That's ridiculous. You're destroying creation. It's a sick thing. Literally, I'm sorry for saying this, but this is the reality. It's a sick situation because by removing, by destroying the identity of things, you're not bringing out unity. You're creating mush. Mush doesn't do anything. If it's false, it's not true. If it's not your reality that God created you in, then you can scream from today till tomorrow. It's not going to change anything. It's a falsehood. There's truth. Just allow truth to be truth. Embrace your truth and know that who you are and what you are is meant to be. And yet, we don't have to be separated and feel it's me or you or opposites. It's one whole truth that is coming out in all its glory through all of its facets, through all of its angles, from all of its different aspects, colors, and expressions. But it's all a singular oneness. This is the messianic oneness, which is going to burst out, Bezrat Hashem, any moment. So here's where the Rebbe brought that in the Parshas Naso, we have all aspects over here. We have the Torah upgrade in the Parsha. We have the world upgrade in the Parsha. And we have the cause that's causing it, which is the soul upgrade, which is causing it all, which is coming in tune with our core essential purity of our soul, our essence. And now, wait. There's so much. This is like such a jam pack. I thought I'm going to get much further in the time that we still have, but we'll learn whatever we're able to connect to. Further than this, he says, there's another element over here in Bahaloscha. Again, we're introducing the next Torah portion because that too is connected to the Shabbos after Shavuos, which is highlighting the new Torah. So, as I mentioned, the conclusion of Parshas Naso is about the 12 princes bringing the sacrifices. The next Torah portion, Bahaloscha, is about lighting the menorah. Now, the Torah, you always have to ask, why does one thing flow into the next? What's the connection? And a lot of times, it seems like people ask, they don't see the connection. But we have to always dig deeper and find the connection. Sages ask, what's Bahaloscha doing after, right after the bringing of the 12 inaugural sacrifices we come to about? So the sages say, because the tribe of Levi, the Levites, were the only ones who did not participate in the inaugural sacrifices. And Aaron, who is a Levite, he's a Kohen, but he's from the priestly, right? And the Kohanim are Levites in essence. They come from the tribe of Levi. Aaron, who was the prince of the Shevet Levi, in the sense that he's the head Levi, he's the Kohen, was feeling bad. And he thought the reason he did not participate in the inauguration of the temple was his own fault because he took part in the golden calf. He said, my tribe is losing, because he felt he blamed himself, that he was the cause, like in the whole story. So therefore, God doesn't want Levi. He felt really bad. So Hashem said to him, no, the reason you're not taking part in the inauguration of the temple is because I have for you something even higher. You're going to be the one who's going to light the menorah. Meaning, all their services are the altar serving on the altar. But in addition to serving on the altar is the one who kindles the lamps. That's a higher type of a service. I'm reserving you for something greater. And your tribe is basically inaugurating the temple through the lighting of the menorah. So, but this seems to contradict a little bit what we've been learning, because this is taking one tribe and elevating them. We're saying now that the emphasis over here is the quintessence where everybody's the same. And suddenly, right over here, we take one tribe and we put them above everyone else, separated, and say they're on a higher level. Yours is greater than them. So the Rebbe says, so it takes the Rebbe to see it this way. He says, no. This is not meant to create division. This is, if you go, you have to go deeper. You have to go deeper. You have to realize Aaron is stepping up. When you went onto the menorah, I mean, this part he doesn't say in the talk, but I'm just using it to in order to bring it out. When Aaron went up to the temple to light the menorah, he had to walk up steps. It's one of the reasons the Torah uses the word bahaloscha, when you will elevate, because the Kohen himself, when he's going to light the lamps, he had to become elevated. He went up 3 steps. So what basically is, when the Levites are stepping up a few steps higher, they're not going there so that they can establish themselves superior and higher in their spiritual service. They're going there as entrepreneurs. They're going there as trailblazers, so that eventually they can bring everybody up those stairs. That's the idea. And that's the concept of why, when it says, the concept of why we put the lighting of the menorah next to the offerings of the other 12 tribes is not to create separation. You're doing this, but he's got a better job, a greater job. That's not the point. The point is to serve not as a divider, but as a connector. And saying like this, we're connecting Aaron's ascent to light the menorah to everyone else, so that when he's going there, he doesn't leave them behind. Eventually, it's going to take time, but eventually their status of holiness, they're going to catch up to the Levites. Now we find that God said by the giving of the Torah that God spoke to Israel and he said, you will be to me a kingdom of priests. Now we know for the last few thousand years, a Jew who's not from the tribe of Levi can't be a priest. It can only be, he's actually punishable by death if he goes in and into the temple and acts like a priest. But yet the Rebbe says, no. Eventually, the true priestlyhood of everyone is going to come out. It's going to take more time. Now, the Rebbe didn't say over here technically, halachically, that someone will be able to work in the temple, a non-Kohen. But we did learn this earlier, that the idea of going into the Holy of Holies eventually, and essentially, everybody will be allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. We will I don't know when that will be, but in the future days, we will arrive to that level of holiness. So the point over here, I'm putting Levi, Bahaloscha, after the rest, is so that to connect the Levites. And that even this quality that Shevet Levi has, and what's the quality of the Levites? That they are devoted only to the service of God. They have no other distractions. That's their one tribe. They're the clergy. They're devoted only to the service. But we already quoted this passage of Maimonides in the earlier class, where Maimonides states that really every person who decides to follow the footsteps of the Levites, even if he's not from that family, could become sanctified with the holiness of the high priest. This Kadesh, Kodesh Kadashim, he becomes holy of holy to the highest levels of holiness. Comes out that, but how? So that means everybody can attach themselves to the lighting of the menorah. But how does a regular person who is not from the tribe of Levi attain a level that seems not to belong to him? That's when we reveal our quintessence. As long as our functioning is not from our essence of our soul, but from the design and features of our soul, from the powers of our soul, but not from the core spark of God that's inside of us, but from the more developed side of us. Then every person has their limits. And you're positioned over here, and you're positioned over here, and you're positioned over here. But when we uncover the essence, then even an ordinary person can attain the level of the Levite, of the Levi. How do we know that that's the secret? It makes sense, but where do we find proof to that? Because Maimonides, when he says that every person can be a Levi, brings a verse, proves it, from a verse that King David says, David HaMelech, in Tehillim and Psalms. David HaMelech says, Hashem menas chelki, God is my portion of my lot. V'kaisi, and you're my cup. Ata taimech gairali, you're the one who will support my lottery. And Chassidus explains that lottery is referring to the good fortune of lotteries. What's a lottery? A lottery is a system that doesn't make sense, not rational. In other words, usually when a person gets something, it's because they worked, they did. What's a lottery? You won a lottery. It's some kind of it's luck. I mean, there's no rational explanation. You can't do anything to make yourself get the winning numbers. It either happens, it doesn't happen. It's something beyond logic. So it's referring to in the soul, there's a level called lottery. And that's the essence of the soul that we're talking about here. So Rambam is saying the fact that it says Hashem and Chelki Koisi that every person, that King David was not a Levi, he wasn't from the tribe, says, God, you're my portion, which is something that God says only to the Kohen. And yet King David was not a Kohen, said, so here in Maimonides proves that every person can be a Kohen and it can be a Levi. Right? Every person can attain that level. But since in that very verse it mentions the lottery element, so the Rebbe is explaining, the Rebbe is explaining, you see from here that the way to access it is through exposing the lottery element of our soul, which is our essence. So based on all of this, we can go deeper. Based on all of this, we can go deeper and explain the unity. We can explain the unity, the importance of unity, why we emphasize so much during the season of the giving of the Torah, Jewish unity. We should all feel together and be connected to each other. We know that initially, when we came to Sinai, God said, we came to the Mount Sinai, God said, now I can give you the Torah. Now, why? Because it was at that time that we all stood shoulder to shoulder, we all stood at one. Generally, there was always disputes amongst the people. Like, who was it? Ben Gurion said to whoever it was, the American, whoever it was, he said, you're a president of a few million people, millions of people, he told the United States president. But I am a president of much less people, but I am a president, or I'm the prime minister of a million prime ministers. That's what it is. Jews are very opinionated and very strong in their opinions a lot of times, and it's not easy to get people to get along. So generally, we say that people were always quarreling and always had different opinions. But at the time of the giving of the Torah, everybody stood with one heart and one soul like one person. That's why it stood. The verse says he camped under the mountain or at the foot of the mountain. It doesn't say they camped because they were finally one. And God said, no, I caught. This is a Kodak moment. Snap cheese. Let's catch this. Let's freeze this moment. I can now give you the Torah. There was that second of unity. So the Rebbe says, so great. And therefore now, because of this, we know that every year before Shavuot, there's a very importance that since we look at the Torah as an ongoing thing, and we would like God, and we know that God is going to give us the Torah on Shavuot. So before Shavuot, there is an emphasis, and the Rebbe made many campaigns that we should always highlight unity before Shavuot. But here the Rebbe adds a twist which he never said before. And he says, we can say that the real reason, the more important unity for the giving of the Torah is not so much related to the Torah we got at Sinai, but it's more important regarding the Torah that is going to be revealed in the days of Mashiach. Remember, we spoke that there's two phases of the Torah. There is the Torah we got then with its limited information or accessibility, and the Torah of Mashiach, in which the flood of knowledge will come out, the future Torah. So the Rebbe says, the unity that is necessary is primarily important for the future revelation, not so much for that. Why? Because unity, how can we stand united as one person? Only when we discover our essence. When do we need the essence to be revealed? When we need to receive the essence of the Torah. As long as we are looking at the shape and form or outer structure of the Torah, then we can approach it not from our essence, but from our intelligence, emotions, and so on and so forth. And therefore, that doesn't require unity, because on the level of intellect and emotions, we're all different. Every single person is different. But when we're coming to Sinai, the second time, in a sense, we're coming to receive the essence, the future download. That can only be from God's essence to our essence. So we have to expose our essence. How do we expose our essence? Through unity. So therefore the Rebbe says, this is wild. He says, it's therefore more important to have the unity, the Shabbos, after Shavuos, even more than the Shabbos before Shavuos or on Shavuot itself. Because on Shavuos itself, we're primarily experiencing the giving of the Torah of the past. But the Shabbos after Shavuos, the main emphasis is the new Torah, the Chiddush of Torah, the novelty of Torah, the new Torah, in general, all novel thoughts of Torah, as we discussed in the earlier classes. But ultimately, the ultimate Chiddush of Torah, God's innovation of Torah that's going to be revealed to us, which, as we discussed earlier, is the essence of the Torah. For that, we need to approach it by us being exposed from our essence, which comes through the unity. In footnote 103, he adds something so beautiful. He says, and that's why we see in our daily experience, every single day, we have a little bit of this idea to emphasize unity, not pre-Torah, but after Torah. Now, why would we if unity is so important for Torah, we should emphasize it before Torah, not after Torah. But we emphasize it after Torah. Why? Because we are already looking ahead at the future Torah. It's not after Torah, it's before Torah, because we are setting the stage for the upgrade of Torah, for the future Torah. Where do we find in our daily service that we emphasize unity, not before the Torah, after the Torah? Well, when we wake up in the morning every day, we have certain prayers that we say right in the morning. It's called the blessings of the morning, Birchas HaShach. Included in those blessings is the blessings for the Torah, called Birchas HaTorah. That's the first section of prayer. The next section of prayer, following after that, starts with a declaration that I accept upon myself to love every single Jew like myself, which is the unity, that we all feel connected to each other. When do we say it? Not before the blessing of the Torah, but we say it after the blessing of the Torah. But hold it, if unity is important, is a prerequisite for Torah, shouldn't we say it before? I was saying here is where you can already see that it's structured this way to emphasize that the main necessity of unity is not for the Torah that we have already, but for the Torah that we are awaiting to come. Every day we wait for Mashiach to come. So we're ready before that, and then we're going to have new Torah. So we're already declaring in the morning, as a preparation for that, I am hereby unifying myself with everybody, so we can all stand unified together with love for the revelation of new Torah. Okay. Wow. I thought that we're going to be way ahead of this, but it's important. It's deep stuff. So we're going to learn it. We're going to learn until we get it done. I think tomorrow's class should finish the whole Sikha Be'ezrat Hashem. Everybody be well when we see Mashiach today.